Good morning. Oh, we're on. Can you turn me down a bit? Please, David. Good morning, Unity. Everybody in the sanctuary and everybody out there, it's a pleasure to be with you this morning. And for those of you who don't know, I am Reverend Aubrey Lynn. And we have a vision and a mission here. And our vision is a spiritual community of love, peace, and acceptance. So when somebody asks, who are we? We're a spiritual community of love, peace, and acceptance. And our mission is creating an inclusive spiritual community throughout fellowship, service, and community outreach. And I would like to welcome all of our first-timers here today. Matt, welcome. And may I say your story?
Absolutely, go ahead.
This is the first time Matt has ever been in a church, and we are very happy that the walls are still standing. and Jerusalem didn't come tumbling down. So we're honored. We're all honored that you're here with us today, Matt, and thank you for being here. And if you can make sure all of your cell phones are turned off and no texting during service, because you know then I would get paranoid and think you're not listening. You guys don't want me paranoid. Okay. So I would like to ask Marianne Kloiber if she would please come up and light the candles of faith with me. And the reason that we do this, we perform this ceremony to promise and to promote universal consciousness of light, which acknowledges that all people, all faiths, all sentient beings come from one great universal presence, which we call spirit. Fundamental to this truth is the unifying nature of all religious thought and experience, which we honor here today. And as we light the first candle, we light a candle for the Tao, honoring the universal path of harmony, equilibrium, the natural way. We light the second candle for the shamanic traditions, honoring the beliefs and practices of all indigenous people, the way of primal spirituality. We light a candle for Hinduism, honoring the peace of knowledge, action, and devotion. We light a candle for Judaism, honoring the ethical path of living by sacred law. We light a candle for all forms of Buddhism, honoring the Four Noble Truths and the path of compassion. We light a candle for all forms of Christianity, honoring the Christ consciousness and the path of love. We light a candle for all forms of Islam, honoring the path of submission to the will of God, and the highest calling. We light a candle for Universalist religion of Baha'i, honoring the path of unity and peace. We light a candle for all forms of New Thought, honoring the metaphysical path of mental healing through the practices of universal spiritual principles. And the last candle that we light is the candle for all those who are yet unaware of the power and presence of spirit in their lives, and for the purpose we are holding for them in this center, and for all religions unnamed in this ceremony. And thank you, Mary Ellen, for that. And if you would repeat with me our touchstone for love. May my mind be a touchstone for love today. May I be divinely programmed today to think thoughts that are most creative, positive, insightful, beneficial. In doing so, I do not give up my personal responsibility or turn my power over to something outside of myself. Rather, I take the highest level of responsibility, knowing that the divine mind has created my mind to be a touchstone for love. I walk forward today in confidence and love, knowing that my mind is used for the highest and the best, dissolving wrong-minded thoughts and perceptions, knowing my mind is used for endless love for myself and others. And so it is. Amen. And it is done. So today is going to be interesting because in the middle of where I was going with this talk, Spirit stepped in and said, no, that's not where you're going. So I've moved around a little bit, but I'm going to take you through the process that I went through and to let you know that there is something that guides us and there is a divine impress that puts us in the direction that we need to be going at any given moment. So my talk today is about unspoken promises. And as you may have read in the Great Happenings, there are no guarantees in life, yet there are things that we do expect and we take for granted. You take for granted when you come here on Sunday, I'm going to be here. That's an unspoken promise. So for instance, another unspoken promise would be that you become a good moral person and you get a good education and you work hard, you do a good job, and life will reward you. That's an unspoken promise. And we all know, however, that sometimes it just doesn't work that way. And there are these endless little disappointments that leave us feeling in despair and an attitude of, why bother? Nothing ever works for me. There is a black cloud over my head. That type of thinking. So this is where faith comes in. Being human, we can and do have ups and downs. Would you agree with me? I mean, that's part of this living, this humanness. And very few of us are immune from the highs and lows of everyday living. But Robert Brown once observed that an irreligious person is one who lives a life of doubt, diversified by faith, while a pious person lives a life of faith, diversified by doubt. Most of us, however, are in the middle of all of that. So in the book Saying No and Letting Go by Rabbi Goldberg, he states that at best, to be human means living in a moody faith. So we live between confidence and joy, and we live between questions and anxiety, and all of that is part of this experience. So how easy is it to have faith when all is well and wholly joyous? It's easy to believe all the cliches of life's promised goodness. Do what you're supposed to do and life will reward you. But what happens when these promises that we've grown up to believe in are broken? And I'm not speaking about life's tragedies. I'm speaking about the things that we take for granted that should be good. You fall in love, you get married, you buy a house, you have kids, you live happily ever after. Right. And then the small setbacks happen, and when they keep happening over and over a period of time, one tends to lose faith in themselves and life itself. Things just keep happening, and these disappointments are things that are supposed to be things that you're not supposed to worry about. These are unspoken promises. The things that were supposed to be ours, sort of like a right of life. And I have heard this cry over the years as I've done counseling through my 19 years of ministry. I did everything right. Everything was supposed to be okay. Why did it turn out so wrong? In the Bible, there's a story of the Israelite farmer told by the prophet Isaiah. The farmer planted the vines, and he watched them, and he protected them, and he did everything that he was supposed to do. He had the wine press ready to make his wine. He waited for good grapes. But wild grapes grew. And the farmer cried out, what else could I have done? I did everything that I could for good grapes. Why did I get wild grapes? He had done everything right, but the loss was still his to bear. the unspoken promise, the hard work would be rewarded. We all live with this. Think about your children. You do all you can for them. You see their talents and you try to lead them in a direction that is what you think is best for them. You invest your love and you try to lead them, you support them, you invest finances with them to bring them to where their talents lie. But there's no guarantee that they will fulfill the dreams you have for them. Any of you experience this in your own lives and with your children? And the reverse of that, you grow up and realize your parents did not fulfill the role of loving and nurturing and caring parents that you thought they should. So we feel cheated. And what we have to understand in unspoken promises, there's no contract. There's no agreement. It's an unspoken agreement. It's an unspoken and unwritten contract. So each time this happens, we sort of feel like that Israelite farmer. We did it right, and again, life turned on me. But here's what we need to know. The world is made up of stories, a tapestry, what is ours to have, what is right, what is wrong, what is good, what is bad, what is possible, what is impossible. And these stories, our stories, our experience, our interpretations of them dictate the way that we react and live our lives as individuals and a bigger part of humanity in this world of beauty and sometimes sorrow. And then something happened to me Friday night when I was working on this. And I had to stop at this point in my thinking because Spirit was pulling me in a different direction. I knew what I wanted to talk about. I had planned it probably 2 weeks ago. This was part of our book club, and I knew I wanted to speak about this. But another message was pushing to be said. So I stopped, which I often do, and walk away from it. And Saturday morning, after coffee and all of that good stuff, I went back to it, and I still had this pull. I'm going to share something with you that I've only done once before in my ministry. I'm going to share my Saturday journaling with you to try to let you know where I am. And I'm asking, is it okay if I share this with you, my personal things? Okay. I got to write all that today. Where did we start? Okay, July 18th, 2020. If I can read my writing. Whoa, the world is really getting crazy. People suing people, one mask over a mask and their right to not wear one. This is my opinion, only what I'm going to say now. A president that is literally mentally sick. A virus that is killing people left and right, where faith is tested, and in some cases, people being shot, blacks being shot, immigrants being caged, riots in our streets. This is not the world that I grew up in. The more I read, the more I learn about our past history, the more I realize that this has been our world all along. Just hidden in plain sight. And yet, birds are flying past my window, and the river is calm and peaceful. And somehow life moves on if we can step back and appreciate the beauty with the sorrow. And I'm in sorrow for all that I have done in my own life to contribute to this mess. And at the same time, I'm so grateful for the evolution of my soul to change each day, to be a better person, willing to see the beauty of life and bringing some joy and more comfort, some peace and some love, and forgiveness to forgive myself and others and let it all go. But I ask, is it enough? How could we start a love chain in Sheboygan? Pass love to all that come in and contact with. Something that says, I care about you, your life, your hopes, your dreams. I can't be a part of the problem anymore. I must change. We need to be a part of the solution. Let's change the words of the hearts in the windows. Tell people that they're loved, that they're great, they're beautiful. How can we, unity of Sheboygan, make a difference? May I hear that voice of love today. Day 22 of my book from Marianne Williamson. And what I opened to that day was, can I hear the voice of love? So this was stopping where I was going. And I sat and I really didn't know how to speak today. So I'm just going to speak from what I'm feeling. You know, I finished reading Simple Not Easy. I talked about it a little bit last week by Terrence Roberts. And for those of you who don't know, and I did not know either, he was one of the Little Rock nine black high school freshmen who were the first to integrate into an all-white central high school in 1956-57. Albert Einstein tells us, before God, we are all equally wise and equally foolish. I understand, and I understood what Einstein was saying, but on equality, I feel that he missed the boat. If you read Simple Not Easy, which I implore you to do, you will learn of the horrors that these 9 young men went through. Abraham Lincoln told us in the 18th century that these men, meaning black men, asked for just the same thing, fairness and fairness only. This is so far as in my power, they and all others will have it. That was something like 35 or something. What happened? What happened? This is 2020. It was beyond foolishness of Einstein. It was unfair. It was unhuman. Fairness, no one protected these kids. There was no fairness. They were just kids that wanted a better high school education. And what I've come to feel and believe and understand is that behind every injustice and violence, there lies ignorance and the absence of love. I do not believe that we can say we love God or we love the Lord if we hate and destroy the very fabric that America was built on. We live on a set of assumptions of how the world works. And believe me, that does bring back in unspoken promises. But our assumptions can be wrong if we believe that black people and yellow people and red people are beneath white people. My eyes are sadly open to so much I never knew. And what I know is that we either expand and be a part of change, or we contract and we stay just as we are, just the way it is. Except it cannot be. No more. The stories that we tell ourselves create a conception of how we create this world. This is our world. Stories that used to make sense are falling apart, which is good. Do we dare, do I dare, do you dare to believe a better world is possible? I think so, yes. And I'm also reading another book that is amazing, which I haven't finished, How to Be an Anti-Racist by Abram X. Kendi. It's a story about following a very young boy's life and all the feelings and confusion of being black And he came from a good family. They lived in a better neighborhood, and they saved all their money to send him to Christian schools and better schools. And they did the due diligence, just like any one of us do. What parents do, the due diligence. And it took him until his freshman year in college to decide that he hated white people. And he didn't in the beginning. He wasn't a racist in the beginning. But when Al Gore lost the election and Florida court said they wouldn't recount all of the votes, and Bush got in, this young man decided that was when he hated blacks. And it peppered his ongoingness in. But by the time he got out of college, he realized he was a racist. And that's why the book is about how to be an anti-racist. And the book is just not the story of his life. He interweaves it with history and science and facts that are true. And it's an eye-opening thing for us because it's teaching all people how not to be anti-racist. He says it's not good enough to say I'm not racist because that says no action. It says no action. But to be an anti-racist is, I'm only halfway through the book. I'm just when he's getting out of college. And as I read this, I feel that I've been cheated in my schooling and my education. And what good did it do me to learn the capital of every state when I didn't learn the roots of our history and what we were doing to each other? We need to understand we are born in the country, the state, the city of our families, and that's where we're placed. And as far as I know, and I don't know that much, it's not a conscious choice. But how will we relate to each other, and our actions hold incredible power. See, equality can no longer be bantered around in respectable social gatherings over a glass of good wine. It needs to be embodied. To me, there's nothing complicated about equality. It's simple. I'm as good as Rodney, and Rodney's as good as Sherry, and Roder. We're all equal. We all have different talents. We all have different values. We all have different perspectives, but we honor the differences. It goes beyond agreeing to disagree. It's honoring and allowing people to speak. I had a conversation, I shortened a conversation, let me rephrase that, with my friend Rhonda on Saturday, and I was talking about Goya beans, and she started screaming at me to get off CNN and find out what was going on in the real world. So I just said, this is a conversation. I honor what you said, and quickly just refused to have a conversation. That's honoring. That's honoring. It's not, my opinion doesn't matter to her. My opinion only matters to me. My perspective only matters to me. I'll share it with you if you ask, but that's all. That's all. To me, there's nothing complicated about equality. It's simple. Fanny Wright, or Frances Wright, was a free thinker, an abolitionist, and a social reformer. She became a U.S. citizen in 1825 from Scotland, and she wrote, "Equality is the soul of liberty. There is, in fact, no liberty without it." And yet here we are in 2020, still living in the dark ages, and believe me, no pun was intended there. Are we or are we not all the sons and daughters of one God? We are. We are. Ms. Wright goes on to say that every human being will vary. Everyone in here varies. We're all so different, and we're all so beautiful the same. She said every human being will vary, but knowledge is the same for every mind, and every mind may and ought to be trained to receive it. Every mind should have the right, every child should have the right to education. And until we get equality in education, we won't have equal society. How could we? Unity teaches us this, that any system that suppresses the will of others is radically wrong. This is our teaching. And we're on the forefront of making a difference in this world. And from the equality of rights springs identity of a highest interest. And I don't know who Carl Schur is, but I love what he says. Usually I look it up and I didn't. You cannot subvert your neighbor's rights without striking a dangerous blow on your own. So when you put up that fence of hate so your neighbors don't run on your lawn, or you complain because they don't bring their garbage in quick enough, or they don't mow the lawn quick enough, including ours. Does it matter? Because what does it create? It creates walls. In fact, a song that I love, in fact, it was the first song that we played in my church, when I opened my church, Breaking Down Walls, and we're going to get it up for next week, Breaking Down Walls. How to break down walls. See, we're all chasing happiness and purpose, and at the end, we should all be equal and embrace all of our differences. So this was my journey this Friday, Saturday, getting this together. It went in a different direction, but it didn't really, because unspoken promises. Think about that. In our immigrant people, and our people of all different colors, they can't even begin to rely on even unspoken promises. We can, but they can't. Does the mother of a black child, little boy, little 10, 11, 12, 13 and up, does she have an unspoken promise that her son will come back when he leaves the house? Do immigrants walking miles and miles and miles have an unspoken promise that their children will be welcomed in the United States of America, the land of the free and the brave? I don't know. I don't know a lot, but I'm learning more, and I'm willing to share that with you. And I was thinking, for those of you that are creative, why couldn't we start making, and maybe making hearts and circles and love trains in your houses and cutouts and things, and maybe if we get 5 that are outstanding, we could print them, and maybe we could put love everywhere in Sheboygan. Just plaster Sheboygan with love. That you're beautiful, you're perfect, you're valued, your life matters, all lives matter. I don't know. I decided, let's do something. Can we do something? Can we please do something? And we'll talk about it. So let's just go quiet within. Just breathe it all in. And think about the pure love in your heart. The pure essence of who and what you are and what you stand for. Are you honoring your core values? Do you have core values? Do you have your own vision, your own mission? think about a bunch of petty stuff. Situation, a person, a neighbor, a spouse, a child. And I want you to find the size box you need to put all this petty nonsense in it. Dig it up and put it in the box. Maybe like an old pirate's box. We could throw it in the ocean. And say to yourself right now, I am love. I am love. This is who I am. From this very moment on, I'm a touchstone for love. I start with myself. I spread it to my family, my friends, my community, my city. Everyone I look at, everyone I see, I just say love. And as we release today all that is unlike love, all that doesn't serve us, all that doesn't bring us peace and joy, all that weighs us down, this is the day I let it go. Not think about it, not talk about it, let it go. It can be done in 1 minute. It can be done. I know. I've done it. So as we very, very slowly and very gently and quietly come back to this place, to this environment, to the environment that you're in, come back with peace in your heart and joy and love. Again, remember that our offering basket is in the back, and as you come or go, please leave your offering in. For all of you out there in live stream world, thank you for all of the offerings that you've been sending in by mail and also by PayPal for us to continue the work that we're doing. And we're going to be planning on doing some more big stuff here in Unity. I just feel it in my bones. So thank you for everything. And if you will say the offertory prayer with me. The love of God inspires me to give me the spirit of generosity, expressing this love from within to ensure the growth of this ministry and this unity center. I give with love and joy, and I receive with gratitude and thanksgiving. And so it is. Thank you, God. It is done. It is done. So thank you for all of the volunteers, Dave Pauly and Carrie Smith, and of course our ever-loving Jules. And thank you for Tom Kloiber. It seems we had an outage with the electrical this weekend, and Tom and Martin and Mary Ellen came and helped and dealt with all of the agencies and got our lights back on for today. So thank you, Tom, for handling that. Appreciate you. Our virtual silent auction is continuing. Last 2 weeks, we had 4 items, and all 4 were bidded on, and they are out the door. And that was very exciting for me because it says that you're paying attention and listening. Remember, there's great Christmas gifts there, and birthday gifts, and hostess gifts when you go to someone's house if you do that kind of thing. So we have 6 items this time. They have 2 weeks up there. Jules is up loading the bids every other day on Great Happenings or Facebook or whatever thing does all of that stuff. Yeah, you know me, I'm not technical.
Email.
Email, oh,
Email.
thanks. Yeah, I know that one. Okay, so anyhow, please look at the items and bid. My dinner is up there this time, so my dinner for 8 people, and I will tell you that you have all the time you need to do that, so you can push through Corona if you do that. And I thought for some of you that might be around for Thanksgiving, maybe you want to do a dinner for 8 for Thanksgiving and have it at my house. So we can't do the big crowd that we always do unless things radically change. We'll see how that goes. So anyhow, just wanted to put that out there. Or maybe you'd like to have a little Christmas party for 8. You could do that with the thing at my house. I'm also doing a brunch one, but it's not up there yet. So, okay, there's still several copies of the Comfort Prayer book. Thank you for all of you guys for chipping in and doing that. That was really great and makes a lot of birthday cakes for us. So thank you for doing that. You can pick one up for a love offering. And if you don't have a love offering today, it's okay. You want the book, please feel free to take it. Wall Book Club beginning in September. I think we're going to begin it at the end of August, but I'll get you a definite date on that. And that one is creating a world that works for all, and it actually ties in with everything that I spoke about today in the books that I'm reading. And if anybody wants to read how to become an anti-racist after I'm done, I'm sure I'm willing to lend it out and we can keep circulating it. The other one is on my Kindle, so we can't do that. Board meeting Thursday at 6 p.m. If you have any ideas or anything you'd like to speak to the board about, let us know ahead of time. And I think that's it. Does anybody have anything that I'm leaving out? No. Okay, have a great weekend, and we will see you all next week. Love you, and thank you for being with us.